So back in season 1, we got an excellent movie honouring episode of Star Trek Lower Decks, and it seems like now we have its sequel.
Oh, you hated mine so much you had to make a sequel, huh? Whatever, have fun with Knapsack.
Knick-knack!
I will!
Welcome to Trek Central, everybody. I'm your host, Captain Jack, and welcome to the channel. We're talking Star Trek Lower Decks once again. But like always, before we actually get into this video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, lore, and more. Then make sure to hit even more buttons and follow us on social media, because you know you want to. But as always, please let us know your thoughts in the comment section below on what you think of the latest Star Trek Lower Decks episode. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Or just feel medium about it? I don't know. Tell us down below. Okay? Warp me. Come on, we had to say it. The cold open of this episode was just amazing, showing us what we love to see. Movie quality episode of Star Trek Lower Decks. USS Cerritos against a new Romulan starship and a Sovereign class. Oh, and a really cool uniform as well. I want someone to cosplay that uniform because it looks really cool. This scene was originally shown to us at Star Trek Day, which seems like ages ago now, but to see it finally in this episode is something we have been waiting for this season. Just seeing a Sovereign class starship coming to save the day against a Romulan warbird is amazing, and something we've been missing since Star Trek Nemesis so long ago. On the Romulan warbird, which looks super cool by the way, but different just like the Klingon ship we saw in Crisis Point 1, we have Metapolar triplets, which are the Romulan version of the Duras sisters, which is pretty cool. They're the sort of co-captaincy styles, even showing a lot of cleavage. I have to say I really like the design, and even the Romulan officers have a sort of urban camouflage style going on in their uniforms, which is interesting. This episode may be like the first Crisis Point, honouring previous Trek movies. This very much is like the Wrath of Khan. We get to go to a scientific base and see an estranged scientist who gives an exposition on a confidential mission. Then it also has flavours of Kelvin, The Final Frontier, the motion picture, and more. Just a great honouring all-rounder Trek movie. The sequel to Crisis Point put the analysis further than simply of Mariner's character and why she does what she does. And this episode is seemingly about creating Star Trek and to find meaning in new Star Trek being created, which is cool. Now the episode does have past jabs and new Trek, but new Star Trek going all the way back to Wrath of Khan. We even have Mariner feeling ownership over the original Crisis Point and claiming that the sequel isn't part of her Vindicta-verse, because it doesn't do the same things as the original movie. Take note of the messages being delivered there, because read between the lines. I won't tell you what it is, but you should be able to know. So we also get a reference to the Kelvin films with time travel shenanigans, making a new timeline of younger actors playing versions of them and how silly it is. Even a reference to the original plan for the voyage home of Spock and Kirk having to assassinate Kennedy to maintain the timeline. Yet thankfully they didn't go with that one. Now talking of timeline, we see the Monster Moon era, the 1980s in Sydney, and even the founding of the Federation, which was so nice to see. But Boimler sees how useful the original Crisis Point was to Mariner in dealing with her issues at the time, and wants that for his movie. A lot of us Star Trek fans have found things in episodes or movies that help us deal with what's going on in the real world though. But just because we found something that can help and relate with us in one installment, doesn't mean we're finding in all of them, and that's okay. Sometimes it's okay for something just to be fun and doesn't have to be deep or meaningful. I mean, look at Lower Decks. Boimler is trying to find meaning in his holoprogram because he learns of the recent death of William Boimler, the exact copy transport clone from season 2. And since it is exact copy, what is meaning in life-death can also be meaningless. Confusing, I know. But Boimler does find something of meaning, not in the holoprogram, but in his own mind. Passing out from dehydration and being at Kirk's ranch, which has since passed to Sulu. And with Sulu, we get to reprising the voice role of George Takei, who was great to hear and I'm glad we got him in this, it's fantastic. Just hearing George Takei say inspirational things was amazing, and I could hear so much of that. But I guess the point of this inclusion is that sometimes we have to look within ourselves and not wholly outwardly in order to come to terms with our inner worries, which is a great Star Trek message. Star Trek can help us deal with grief, pain, anxiety, or anything else that might concern us, but it isn't Star Trek that does the work, but ourselves and looking within. Trek can be the catalyst for this self-reflection, and just like it literally is with Boimler dehydrating in the holoprogram, we have to do the work to find that meaning. Which I think is a pretty powerful message for any piece of media, and something which Lower Decks is able to do by cutting through the serious and getting to the crux of the matter. And that is the only thing the episode had to talk about. Crammed full of stuff, and I guess it also talks about just the nature of sequels to beloved classics, Mariner and Boimler got something completely different out of the Paradoxus compared to Rutherford and Tendi, who loved it. We'll take our own things out of these episodes, series, films, but just because we try to look for something that isn't there, and may even call it lesser or not canon because of it, something might find exactly what we need from it. Tendi, or just like Rutherford for example. You can take it seriously, you can take it lightly, you can try to find deeper meaning in the text, but at the end of the day, all these things just view something on valid and add more perspective to it, and therefore improve it as a whole. Story-wise, one of the nice things this episode did well was actually give us more of Tendi, and show us her dream is one day to become a Starfleet captain. And I think that is so great. She is on the senior science track at the moment, but I can definitely see her becoming a great captain one day, especially considering her skills as mistress of the winter constellations of Orion. Ooh, that sounds good. Now, I guess we have to talk about that cliffhanger ending. I know you're all eager to discuss it. So the catalyst of Boimler's mission of self-discovery is the death of William Boimler, his clone. Well, it turns out that he's actually alive and was only pretending to be dead in order for his torpedo coffin to be picked up by a Defiant-class starship and join Section 31. So, Section 31 is still skulking around in the 2381 year, and I presume we may get more of them in later seasons of Star Trek Lower Decks. There's even a little joke about them having identifiable comm badges, which, to be fair, they've only had they were more of an organization in the 21st century. But I guess they will return their black comm badge ways after DS9, which is odd. What this means for the future of the series, now that William Boimler is evil and in Section 31, who knows? But I look forward to finding out, especially if there's a tie of any of the Section 31 stuff into other series. Oh, and we see they have Defiant-class ships, probably due to knowing that work well with Romulan cloaking devices, which is perfect for a shadowy organization like them. All in all, this is a very good episode of Lower Decks, and probably my favourite of Season 3, because it actually says something and isn't just playing it safe. A big issue I've had with Season 3 is just how safe a lot of the episodes are, falling back into the status quo, and even though the episode also returns there, it feels like it hasn't at the same time. Does that make sense? We get an idea of where Tendi is heading, some character exploration with Boimler, and a cliffhanger to tease where we might end up in the future. Now, an episode about sequels and finding meaning in them, or just accepting them as honest fun, seems weird to view or say how we found it, but I think I have to take sides of Mariner, and say that I feel the original Crisis Point was a little more refined than Crisis Point 2, Paradoxus. The original Crisis Point was centered squarely on Mariner and her character exploration, fighting an inner representation of herself to come to terms with what she's really fighting against. And maybe that was the point this sequel was a little more unrefined, but I found it juggling a lot of things at the same time. That isn't to say it was unsuccessful, as I feel it was able to say what it meant to say very well, and was even meta in how it tried to say these things. So it was very still an effective way and a good sequel of the original Crisis Point episode. And also, a great episode of Star Trek allowing us to look inwards. It just made it a very packed episode of Lower Decks. But overall, a good Star Trek episode, and definitely makes Crisis Point a mini-series very well worth it. And who knows, we might even put Crisis Point 3 sometime in the future of Lower Decks. Maybe a Search for Spock one. It was a good movie, unfortunately, but it was put between The Wrath of Khan and The Voyage Home, arguably some of the best Trek movies. But I guess we'll have to do what Crisis Point 3 lives up to, the one with whales, so Mike McCann, it's on you. What did you think of Crisis Point 2 Paradoxus? Let us know in the comments below. In the meantime, that's it for myself on Trek Central today. Don't forget, if you want to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, hit that subscribe button, as we don't want to miss you. Alright everyone, I've been Captain Jack on Trek Central. Thank you for watching. Live long and prosper, my Trekkies. Goodbye.